Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation of that message, it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi, how are you? I have come here because I want to confess to you the things that I did. I want to confess, to tell you all the evil things that I have been doing and how I have been blaming God, yet I know that it was I who went out to seek out these magicians back in my country in Zim. That is where I come from, even though I am now staying here in America. I used to work in South Africa. I used to work as a local bus driver there for a local South African company. When me and my wife thought of migrating, we then came to America. My wife did not want me to start a business back home, but I said home is best. One day, you never know, maybe we might be forced to migrate back to our country. So let us set out a business. And indeed, me and my wife, we started our own bus company back home in Zim. If only I had listened to my wife, I could have been a Christian that I used to be. I could have never rebelled against God, but I did not know that in my country, in the village from where I came from, there are people that do not want to succeed in life. Maybe it is in our genes as Zimbabweans that we do not want someone else to succeed, because what my relatives did to me, it was so painful. I was like a river where all of my relatives could drink from. I assisted almost everyone when I was staying in South Africa. Most of my relatives, I would give them money each and every month, which I used to call black tax. I would send their kids to school, but they were looking for the perfect opportunity to bewitch me simply because I had gone to America. I returned back to Zim, me and my wife. My wife even refused to do some of the rituals since we had stayed almost 5 years without returning back home, and it was 10 years in total because we had spent about 5 years without returning back to Zim. When we were in South Africa, we were working so hard so that we can raise money to migrate from South Africa going to America. And when we came to America, we had to settle down first, and because of the visa requirements, I could not leave the American Republic. Otherwise, I was going to lose my visa. I could only leave after 5 years. So there were those in the family that passed away, and unfortunately, I could not attend their funerals. That was where some of the hatred came from my own blood relatives. They said that because I was in America, I thought that I was far much better than anyone from our tribe. But no, I would send money whenever there was an emergency in the family. I was the first one to send money that was enough for my family back home to make sure that they settle all the issues that they were going through. But they thought that because I was in America, I felt I was so much better, and I was not communicating with them as much as they wanted me to communicate with them, and they do not have any idea. Europe and other Western countries, they are different from Africa. Here, time is very important, and sometimes you won't even find the time to sit down and to speak with your relatives like I used to do when I was still in South Africa. So they thought that I felt as if I was so much better than the rest of my relatives, and they decided to bewitch me. When we finally returned back to my village in Gutum, after 10 years, there were rituals that they wanted us to do, in which my wife, she was refusing to do some of those rituals, but I said, let us do it. We went to the graves of some of my relatives, those that died when we were not in Zim. They were things that were supposed to be done, like pouring traditional beer on top of those graves. My wife reminded me that we were Christians and we were not supposed to do such a thing, but I said, this is our Shona culture. Let us not do what you are saying we are supposed to do. Otherwise, all of our relatives, they will hate us. So I poured the traditional beer on the graves of those that were buried when we were not in the country. And later on, we were forced to kneel in front of a traditional healer to consult even with him. And there was a spirit that came, and this spirit said that it was the spirit of a woman that was killed, and this woman was killed a very long time ago, maybe in the 1950s, by one of our relatives, and she wanted us to repay her. So I also assisted the family in doing such. There were cows that we bought, and we went with them to the village of that woman, and when that issue was settled, we returned back to America. I had bought the bus, and I made sure that the bus was on the road when we returned back to America. When we returned back to America, my wife started to notice that there was something that was wrong with our child. This she saw when we were still in South Africa, because we stayed there for a couple of weeks. We wanted to see some friends and relatives before we could book a flight to return back to America. When we were in South Africa, she noticed that our child was not like the way that she used to be when we were in America. When we came back, we went with her to the hospital. That was when we were told that my daughter had leukemia. I spoke with my relatives. My relatives then told me that I was supposed to communicate with this other traditional healer who was from Malawi. He was the only one who could assist. They told us that we had already done a mistake. This mistake that we had made was going with our child to the doctors. When you have cancer, according to our culture, you go to a traditional healer because the cancer can be caused by one who has been bewitching you. And the moment that you start to take medication, then it means that you are never going to recover. So I had to fly back to Zim. My wife, she totally refused, and she said that she did not want to participate. I flew back to Zim. I went and I visited another traditional healer. To tell you the truth, I was told that there were other things that had happened in my life. There were those that were bewitching me. Even the bus that I had bought, it was going to bring me great misfortunes, and I was going to lose a lot of money. I thought that maybe it was just a false prophecy. I returned back with the medicine and the herbs, and my daughter was okay for a couple of years, which made me to doubt in the Lord and to believe that the traditional healers, even if you say that they serve the devil, but it seemed as if the devil was far much better, was a much better God, for he had given what God had felt to give to me. I wanted my daughter to recover and to be in good health at all the times, and I had prayed so many times. My wife had fasted for many days and many months, but our daughter was getting worse. But when I had returned back to Zim, that was when I saw that indeed these traditional healers, they are very powerful, and I wanted more. And that prophecy, indeed, it came true. It was a big mistake that I had done. This business that I was now running, I was owning 2 buses. The other one was going between Harare and Bulawayo. The other one, which I bought at Rent to Buy, it was going on the Harare Bait Bridge route. And I also had a minibus taxi, only one that I had. And indeed, the misfortunes, they started to come. The very first bus that I bought, it had an accident when it was approaching Masvingo, and there was a woman that was killed there. The family of that woman who died after she had been hit by my bus, they demanded more. They wanted money from me, and when they heard that the owner of this bus was in America, the amount that they demanded was quite a lot, and this was what they did. When I told them that I did not have the money, they took their relative from the mortuary and they went with their relative, because I have a house which is in Harare. They went and they left the coffin which had the corpse of their dead relative in the front gate of my house. They were only arrested by the police only after they had been arrested by the police. That was when they agreed to go and bury their dead relative. When I saw that the law had protected me, I then refused to pay them, even though they had gone to the village court where they wanted to summon me to stand before the chief so that the chief can resolve the matter, because they wanted 40 cows, and I said, to hell with them, I'm not going to do that, for the law does not allow that. So I stayed quiet. It was my relatives now that were bewitching me, and the spirit of that woman that had been hit and had been killed by my bus that was causing all of these problems that I was now facing in my life. My daughter became sick again, and I had to be forced to return back to Zim. I returned back to Zim, to that same traditional healer. He gave me more charms, and he said, my man, this business that you are doing, do you know that it is not easy to operate a logistics business without having any tokologists that will be assisting you? He did not start by saying tokologists. He said that you need some soldiers. In Shona, the word that he used is gamba remusha, which means that this is a tokology that will be protecting your home, that will be protecting your business, so that the witches and all of your enemies cannot touch you spiritually. So I said, if it means that you are going to give me this spirit that will be protecting my businesses, so that my buses can never have an accident again, and they can be operating at a profit, not at a loss, because at that time I had already bought 2 engines, which meant that I had bought this bus 3 times, because the engine is very expensive. So I did not want to lose more money, knowing that my wife, she was already complaining about everything that was happening. So I then decided to go with the men to Gokwe. We went to a village in Gokwe where I was strengthened by this other traditional healer who was said to have migrated from Mozambique. He was known by a lot of businessmen, and he had clients. His clients, he had shops, fleets of trucks, nightclubs, and none of them had ever gone broke. We met at night in his homestead, and when I was there, he said, if you want your business to grow, I'm sure that my partner, he was referring to the traditional healer who had once cured my daughter, if you want your business, he said, to grow faster than others, you need to have something, a spirit, but you need to feed this spirit, because there is nothing that lives without eating. For this spirit to feed your business, you need to give it food. I then said, oh, what am I supposed to give to this spirit that you're going to give to me? And he said, the food that is required is blood. He asked for $2,000 for the initial ritual. I brought it. He performed the ceremony. The next night, we slaughtered a black goat, and we poured the blood of that goat into a clay pot as he was chanting my name, my daughter's name, my business name. And he told me to swear, to make an oath against the Holy Spirit, so that if someone goes to church trying to separate me from my tokology, I would rather die. I was not even thinking about it when I made that oath to swear against the Holy Spirit to never repent. The next month, you won't even believe it, I had made enough money such that I contacted my other partner who was in China, and we bought a bus together which was shipped to the Durban harbor, and we collected it in Mosina. Then another. Within 3 years, I had a fleet of buses, and I kept on paying this man. I had to fly between America and my country with the money as well as the gods. Then lockdown came. I did not even know that those that are in the spirit, they were not in lockdown, and they were going to punish me. When lockdown came, I was supposed to travel between my country to make all of these blood offerings. I could not even get out of the house, and I kept on messing my rituals. The traditional healer, unfortunately, he contracted COVID and he passed away during COVID. Soon after lockdown, I saw that indeed things in my business, they were moving, but there were some misfortunes that I could see. And I thought that since the world was coming out of the COVID lockdowns, maybe that was the reason as to why my businesses were not moving according to plan. 2023, I then lost my daughter. After I had lost my daughter, you won't believe it, my daughter called me from the grave. Her phone, we wanted to go and sell her phone because it gave us a lot of heartbreaks and painful memories. But my wife, she kept on holding on to that phone. I did not even want to touch it because it reminded me of my daughter. One night when I had returned back from work, and then I saw a WhatsApp message. It was sent from my daughter's phone, and my daughter was saying that she can't rest because there were rituals that I did not do, and those rituals that I have not been doing. I rushed to the bedroom where my wife was sleeping upstairs, and I showed her the message. As she was looking for our daughter's phone, my phone kept on ringing. It was my daughter's phone number that was calling my phone. Since that day, we did not find that phone ever again. We thought that maybe it had been stolen, but this phone, Brother Nashi, when we would call it, we would hear that my daughter would say hello, a same voice. I told my wife to return with me to Zim. She refused. She said she was a Christian. I was supposed to finish whatever that I had done. In that very same year, there was an accident that happened in my country. I want to confess that in that accident that happened, it was I and the traditional healer. We were the ones that caused this accident to happen. He had told me that if blood was going to be spilled on my behalf, then my daughter was going to rest in peace. I returned back to America, but then my daughter started to show herself to me. Even in broad daylight, I would see the spirit of my daughter. 2 months after that, there was an accident again that happened in my country. There was someone that died. Even if I tell you the name of that person, you will be shocked to know that it was I who caused that accident. So here I am right now in 2025. My son, the one that I thought that he was the one who was going to inherit all of my wealth, he is now running mad. He started by chewing at his fingers such that we could see even the blood that was coming out of his fingernails, and we went with him to the clinic. They said that he was suffering from depression, and they gave him some medication which made the situation to be worse. He kept on saying and claiming that he could see his own sister all over the walls, the name of his sister written all over the walls. He kept on having these hallucinations that he kept on having, and he would hear the voices of the people that died. He knows them all by their names, those people that died in several bus accidents that were caused by me. I am desperate right now. I called that traditional healer whom I call Sekuru from Kutu. I called him and I said that I want to do a go back to sender even on myself. He laughed and he said, you want me to die? You want me to die before my ancestors called me? You are going to do a go back to sender somewhere else. I won't assist you to do a go back to sender, because if I do a go back to sender, that go back to sender is going to kill you and it will destroy my shrine. But if you go somewhere, if you get killed, if those people send their go back to sender to me, then my ancestors will wake up from the caves where they are buried and they will come and fight for their shrine. So this is where I am right now. I am writing this to you because I do not know where to turn to. I've spoken with pastors, but they all love money. I have spoken with other Zimbabwean prophets. There was one man who said that I should book a flight ticket for him. He wanted me to bring him to America so that he can run away. I got to find out after he had sent a wrong message. Please help me.